Ever had the absolute unshakable feeling that something happened, only to have the entire internet scream back, "Nope, it didn't"? Welcome to the Mandela effect. But we're not going to talk about Berenstain Bears. We're talking about how your memory basically operates like a bad Google search that prioritizes vibes over facts. See, your brain isn't a hard drive recording a perfect video stream. It's more like a cranky Wikipedia editor. When you try to recall an event, your brain doesn't just pull up a file. It reassembles the scene, stitching together fragments of sensory input, external suggestions, and, most importantly, what logically should have happened. This is called reconstructive memory. The problem is, every time you retrieve a memory, you're not just viewing it. You're editing it, saving over the original, and adding a little extra you to the story. That time you were completely sure you locked the door? You probably didn't, but your brain knows you're a responsible person. So it retroactively inserts the key-turning sound effect into the memory reel. You can thank your brain for desperately trying to create a coherent narrative, even if that narrative is a total fiction starring you as the main character. It's basically gaslighting yourself. But in HD, imagine a scenario. You were 8 years old riding your bike, and you totally ate it in front of the neighbor's intimidating poodle. You remember the exact skid mark, the sound of the bark, and the distinctive feeling of grass stains. Now, here's the disturbing truth. Your older sister told you that story when you were 16, and your brain just took that verbal narrative and turned it into a fully rendered personal memory. This is the nightmare of imagination inflation, and it's why police are terrifyingly careful with witnesses. Your mind is so good at running simulations that if you're asked to vividly imagine an event that didn't happen to you, there's a solid chance you'll later remember it as an authentic experience. The mere act of visualizing a scenario, even a lie, activates the same neural networks used for real recollection. You essentially have a faulty antivirus program that can't tell the difference between a real memory file and a sophisticated fictional rendering. Congratulations, you're walking around with a head full of high-budget fan fiction your brain wrote about your own life. Ever watched a crime procedural where a shifty lawyer plants a tiny, specific detail in a witness's mind and suddenly, they're recalling a non-existent red car? That's not drama. That's the reality of the misinformation effect. Your memory doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's porous. If someone introduces new data after an event, say by asking, "Did you see the blue shirt the thief was wearing?" When the shirt was black, your mind often simply edits the original tape to include the blue shirt detail. It doesn't register the new information as an outside influence. It smooths the edges and files it away as part of the original scene. This is particularly potent when the source of the misinformation is an authority figure or someone you trust. You trust them. Therefore, the information must be correct. Therefore, your original memory must have been wrong. Your brain performs the edit not out of malice, but out of a deep-seated psychological craving for consensus. It basically chooses to believe the crowd over its own eyewitness account. You're sitting in a history lecture, or maybe you're just trying to explain that weird documentary you watched last night. You can't recall the specific dates, the technical jargon, or the exact citation, but you know the main idea, right? You remember the gist. Well, your brain loves the gist so much it treats actual details like unimportant footnotes that can be immediately deleted. This is called gist memory, and it's why summarizing is so easy, but recalling precise facts is agony. When you commit something to long-term storage, your brain performs radical compression. It strips away the scaffolding, the specific sequence of words, the exact time of day, the irrelevant filler, and keeps only the central concept. The problem arises when you try to prove the details later. You remember that the scientist discovered a breakthrough, but you might confidently tell people they discovered it in a submarine when, in reality, they were just working late in a library basement. Your brain substituted the less exciting real environment with a more dramatically appropriate one. It's a natural system designed for quick information retrieval, but it turns you into a walking, talking game of telephone that gets progressively weirder with every retelling. Your memory is not archiving. It's summarizing, and it's doing a sloppy job of it. This is the real mind bender.